It's the final week of spring practice at Nebraska. There's movement in the QB battle. That's next.
You are Locked On Nebraska, your daily Nebraska Cornhuskers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. Thanks for making Locked On Nebraska your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Okay, Mitch, here we go. It is spring game week. We have finally arrived. There was a scrimmage this past Saturday. Matt Rhule spoke. He talked as little as he possibly could about the quarterback situation that they have, which is I think will be an ongoing theme of the rest of the spring and into the summer and potentially even into the fall. But he did say how dominant the offense was on Saturday. He said it was the most dominant since he's been here as the coach, which, I mean, admittedly is probably a little bit of a low bar considering what the output was on offense last year. But that was a little bit jarring to hear. So that's what we got from this past weekend. There's kind of a lot on the table as we head into spring game week here, Mitch.
Yeah, Connor. Interesting comments from Matt Rhule. We've not heard him that excited about the offense in his year plus at Nebraska. And it begs the question about the quarterbacks. He was asked at the end of the press conference by Sam McEwen of the Omaha World Herald about who led the 99-yard drive that Rhule mentioned early in his press conference. And he said that he could not remember who led the 99-yard drive. I think the head coach knows
ever, except for that. He's like a golfer, just retracing every single shot on the course, and then he's like, "Who did that 99-yard drive in practice today?" I don't know. I really don't know.
I think it's very clear that Matt Rhule wants to steer the conversation away from any talk about how one quarterback has won the job. But signs are starting to point to Dylan Raiola. And I'm not saying that Dylan Raiola necessarily led the 99-yard drive. We did see him hit a long pass, a really impressive pass on the video that Nebraska put out after practice to Jalen Lloyd, where Raiola was rolling to his right and threw one of those kind of balls where you say when it's over, okay, there are not a lot of guys who could do that. And again, it's from a scrimmage in April, so you don't want to get too excited, but also you want to get really excited because you saw him make that throw and Nebraska thought enough of it to include it in a 30-second highlight package from the scrimmage. He's starting to become more of a featured piece in the video packages that Nebraska puts out. You notice he was the first person shown in the scrimmage highlights. So if he's not in a position where he's starting to assert his control at the QB position, I don't believe Nebraska does that with a true freshman quarterback. His playmaking is becoming the talk of the privileged viewers who get to watch the scrimmages. And there are signs. Funny, I've never seen this before, but there are signs posted around the facility, at least in the Hawks Championship Center where Nebraska normally practices. The scrimmages are outside, but for the people who get let into the scrimmages, not to go on podcasts and talk about what they've seen, not to go on radio shows. So Nebraska's trying its best to keep this conversation minimal about one quarterback going ahead, but we're starting to get to the point now with the week of the spring game, 12 practices into March and April, where the writing is on the wall.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear. So I've noticed a tone change over the last 48 hours here. It coincides with the release of that video and also, people talking to people who are at practice, and everybody seems to kind of think that Dylan Raiola has kind of grabbed this thing and he's going to kind of run away and hide with it now. Not that I really expected it to be much of a race in the first place, but I think the funny thing about it is, and the clip and the play that you were referencing where he rolled out and he threw on the run to his right, and it was right on the sideline to Jalen Lloyd. It's a really good play. And I was thinking about what Nebraska got from their quarterback play last year, and it wasn't all encompassing, right? Like there were times where those quarterbacks made good plays, whether it was game changing runs and in some cases, deep throws. That stuff is going to be, and then obviously it was, of course, highlighted by the back-breaking mistakes. I think a lot of times by those quarterbacks. So what I'm saying is Nebraska's quarterback play doesn't even have to be like outstanding this year. Like he doesn't have to be Patrick Mahomes. I just think people want to see a quarterback who could do the pretty regular stuff, and so it's nice, to see that, because I didn't like Mitch. I didn't think it was that ridiculous of a play to make that run and throw it out on the sideline. Like, all right, he's open. He's there. He broke open. Like, let's get it to him. And so I just think this is going to open up so much of what Nebraska is attempting to do on offense. You'll see all these players get better. If the quarterback could just make regular plays, regular throws, regular reads. And then the thing that obviously excites you about Dylan is the things that he could do that are Mahomesian. Like he can extend plays, and then he can, make 80-yard throws or whatever it needs to be after the play is kind of broken down. You saw that at the end of the highlight where he just, chucked it deep up to Jalen Lloyd and he had a step on his guy like he was Tyreek Hill. So obviously there's that part, like take the top off part that I'm excited for too. But I'm just excited to watch a quarterback do normal stuff. And I think if he's grabbed this, he's done that in the first few weeks of spring ball here.
I like that Jalen Lloyd is now Tyreek Hill. So
yeah, he's Tyreek Hill now. So get used to it.
So Thomas Fidone, is he Travis Kelce, or
That's
are we
right.
waiting for
Yes.
Carter Nelson to be Travis Kelce? What?
Yeah, we should do a side-by-side Chiefs to Huskers. That could be a whole podcast one day.
Instead of calling it Mahomesian, by November it'll be Raiolan. That'll be what's going on. That was a Raiolan type of throw. We're gonna get in. My point here is it's gonna spin out of control, and Nebraska can try its hardest, and that was Rhule on Saturday, downplaying things, and they've gone above and beyond throughout the spring to make sure that when one quarterback gets mentioned, that all three quarterbacks get mentioned. I'm very intrigued coming up to this Saturday with the spring game when there are 60,000 people in the stadium and it's on the Big Ten Network, what Nebraska does to, if you've done it for 14 practices and you've kept this cover over the race, they're certainly not going to allow it to just end there. Their intent to take this race into August. And I totally understand the point. You don't want Dylan Raiola, as mature as he might be, to enter the summer in any way thinking and acting like he doesn't need to work anymore, like that he's just got the job and it's just countdown until UTEP game. No, they need him to continue to improve and be motivated. So while he may know better than we do, and I'm sure he does, even within the team, I don't think this is something that's being addressed like, well, hey, it's Dylan, but we're going to go out and tell the public that it's all three. No, I believe that what Nebraska's saying publicly is also what Nebraska's saying internally to its players.
Yeah, I think they're all getting relatively even reps still. Because there's just so few scholarship quarterbacks at this point. You just have those three guys, and you're trying to do so much stuff. So like they're all getting even reps, and they're still what I said a couple weeks ago when we started this thing. Like they're just practicing, and that's still the case. But watching the practices and going through them a little bit, one quarterback is better than the other. They can keep doing that. They'll do that like you said, for the rest of this week and through spring ball, just because they've done it all the way so far, and this was kind of the plan for it. But when we get closer to the end of the summer and then obviously into fall camp, you're gonna have to choose, at some point. But it's not anytime soon, that's for sure.
Yeah, and we'll talk more this week about what we expect in the spring game. But one little tease there is I would expect Heinrich Haarberg to take the first set set of snaps. I would think that it'll be Heinrich Carberg as the older quarterback in the room who gets that first series. Because if you make it Dylan Raiola, then that's another clear message that Nebraska really doesn't want to send, and has taken strides this spring not to send. So that's a prediction that I'm going to have for Saturday. We'll get to more of that as the week goes on. Thank you for listening to us at Locked On Nebraska. Follow us on Twitter at Locked On NEB. Email us at lockedonneb@gmail.com. After the break, we're going to talk about something that Matt Rhule said on Saturday among his many comments that has my interest. That is next. Mitch Sherman here for LinkedIn. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals who are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. It has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team fast and for free. LinkedIn is not just a job board. If you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who are not actively searching for a new job but might be open. In a given month, more than 70% of LinkedIn users do not visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you are looking in the wrong place. 86% of small businesses are on LinkedIn. Get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. Okay, as I said before the break, something that Matt Rhule said Saturday after the scrimmage has stuck with me. He was asked what it says about his program that it has 100 scholarship caliber players, and that's about right with the players who are on the NIL equivalency. And no one has yet to enter the transfer portal nearly a week after it reopened last Tuesday. He launched into his normal stump speech about all of the great support that Nebraska players receive from strength and conditioning, nutrition, player development, the coaching staff. Why would you want to leave? Matt Rhule said. And then he said this. We've got video and audio, Connor, if you can cue this up.
Why would you go anywhere else? You have the best fan base in college football, the best media base in football. You're going to get. I mean that sincerely. You're going to get covered here. Like sometimes kids will say to me, "I'm thinking about this." I'm like, "All right, go play in front of 25,000 people and play in obscurity." Like, I wish the teams we placed. Like, I like to listen to their player interviews. No one else. Make sure you guys know you have a good too, but like our players have a good. Like no one else has 5 players every Tuesday and Wednesday getting interviewed. Like, so when you come here, you're getting those opportunities to build your brand. What's that they call it now? Build your brand. Like, you're getting opportunities to get yourself out there. Like, we have guys that do, they might do a radio show. They might do this. Like, again, why would you go anywhere else?
Okay. That's a lot. What do you think of that?
I don't think that I've heard a coach talk about that before. But I think he's
you guys have got it good, by the way. He pointed down at the front row. You've got it good, just so you know.
I don't think I've heard a coach talk about that before. I mean, we do talk about how NIL has changed things, and if those guys want to jump into that space where they jump on a podcast or they jump on a radio show, they could get potentially paid to do it. So yeah, you could because you're definitely going to get covered. He's right about that. I often, I don't go to practice much anymore. But when I was there on a daily basis, I would think, man, this is crazy. There are 25 people here at minimum. There are 6 cameras. And there's sometimes just one guy getting interviewed. There's sometimes 2 guys, there's sometimes 7 guys, but there's questions for him. I'm like, this is insane to think about. And so every single other coach has always looked at that and said, whoa, this is wild. I mean, we got to do something about this. And Rhule is, I think Rhule probably thinks that a little bit too, but in his classic Rhule way, he's using it as a selling point, an advantage for him. And so That's the disposition that he's come with a lot of the times. It's really interesting though.
How about the fact that he wants to listen and he tries to listen to the player interviews for other teams? So if Nebraska's playing Colorado, well, never mind, they don't do player interviews. But if Nebraska's playing Ohio State in October, Matt Rhule is listening during the week. He finds time around watching all the film and scouting and game planning and managing his organization to go and watch the interviews that not his players do, but that the players from other teams do. I find that another window into just the level of detail that he puts into his job, and really interesting. Like, what's he looking for there? Bulletin board material? I don't think so. I think it's just he likes to know how things are going at other places.
I often wonder about him, if he gave us
sleeps.
Exactly. If he gave us a minute-to-minute itinerary, like if he just logged the things he did, like he was Michael Scott that one day his boss was watching him on The Office. Like if he just logged the things he did, how many things would be on there? Because he is super in touch, and maybe he has other people, they just kind of report it to him, but he reads the paper, he reads you, he listens to us. I don't know about us specifically, but he'll listen to the stuff if it's out there. And yeah, we'll get there eventually. And hi Matt. So it's there's that, and then listening to other players, listening to other coaches at press conferences, just in case you want to get the feel, you want to get the vibe of things. And he always has he has a really, really good finger on the tone of I think what Nebraska fans think. So if he's able to get that from taking in the media coverage from his own team, then he can listen to the people in Wisconsin and he could be like, oh, tone's kind of weird up there this week. Just store that away.
Yeah.
I mean, that's useful.
Having lived through the Pelini and Frost years for 12 of the 15 seasons prior to Matt Rhule arriving, we became it became normal to get this sense like it was an obligation, but one that the head coach and even the players, because they feed off the energy of the head coach, did not enjoy in going out there. And when you're speaking to the media, this is maybe a line that the media says, but when you're speaking to the media, you're speaking to the fans, you're speaking to the state. And it's easier now for football players to speak directly to the fans because they can do it through their own YouTube channel. They can have a radio show like Matt Rhule said, but it's still undeniable that the media who come to cover his team have a wide reach, and it's the most effective vehicle for him to get messages out and for his players to get messages out. And instead of taking an us against the world mentality and saying, oh, you're just here to spread lies and denigrate our program, they have used it to their advantage. And what a refreshing approach, especially in this NIL era when players are interested in building their brands. They've always been interested in it, but now they can make money doing it. So he's kind of the right guy at the right time when it comes to embracing what the media brings. And again, I just thought it was interesting because I've never heard a coach go down that road before and talk about the benefits that his players and his recruits, he's talking to recruits. The line about you can just go ahead and play in obscurity, pick a different school, play in front of 25,000 fans, play in obscurity. Now, many of the schools that Nebraska is recruiting against are not playing in obscurity. You're not playing in obscurity if you're at Iowa. You're not playing in obscurity really if you're at most schools in the Big Ten. But he can say that and give recruits something to think about, give players in his program who might be considering jumping into the portal something to think about.
Yeah, one thing I've always thought about is how well this place with this media coverage could potentially prepare you for the NFL, especially if you're going to be a star type of player, where every single day you got to answer questions, you have to speak for people that you're quote unquote in charge of, even if you're just a player. And so that's I think that's a part of it too. I'm surprised Rhule didn't squeeze that in there. Hey, you want to prepare for the NFL? They're going to ask you questions that you have no idea what they're talking about every single day. And so you just have to prepare to handle those things. And, you don't take a day off or you get fined.
I think that's a part of it. When he talks to players and recruits about it, I think that's probably a part of where he goes. And he reminds people, I've been a head coach in the NFL, and this microscope here is more significant than it is in some NFL markets. Not all. I mean, this is not the Dallas Cowboys, but it's equal to I would say what he experienced in Carolina.
Hey,
or greater than.
Speaking, Mitch, of the NFL draft is this week, and Locked On NFL Mock Draft is available right now. Check out the Ultimate 6-episode series to hear who the local Locked On experts are picking for every NFL franchise. That includes live reactions from local college football experts and, of course, the fantasy angle as well. Find the Locked On NFL Mock Draft right now on Locked On NFL Draft on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. We'll be right back. All right, folks, it is playoff time in the NBA and in the NHL. Baseball is in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150, win or lose. So if you would have bet every home team in the first 2 days of the NBA playoffs over the weekend, you would have been in really, really good shape, because that's exactly what happened. All the high seeds won. Bet on everything, including that. Slap shots, the hockey playoffs are starting, home runs, slam dunks, all in an app that's safe, secure, and easy to use. What are you waiting for? Head to FanDuel.com/locked-on and make your first bet an automatic win. That is with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. All right, we've been knee deep into some football stuff over the first couple of segments. Let's take a little bit of a step back. I'm sure, Mitch, you're really excited to talk about baseball and the fact that they opened up the beer taps this past weekend. The initial reviews are in, and I don't think anything horrible happened, so that's good.
Yeah, lots of media coverage of the beer at Haymarket Park. So I'm having a beer this weekend, or one night this week when the wind gets below 30 miles an hour. I'm going to probably crack one open on my patio and grill some burgers. So anybody wants to talk to me
about it on The Athletic,
yeah, anybody wants to talk to me about that, I'm available for interviews.
So we had that, but on the field, Nebraska took 2 out of 3 from Maryland to kind of right the ship a little bit there, and then
Seems so.
Yeah, Fred Hoiberg's doing some work in the portal, and they've gotten a few guys over the last probably week and a half, 2 weeks here, adding Wisconsin transfer Connor and over the weekend. All freshmen in 2023, shot about 35-36% from 3 his freshman year, a little bit of a dip last year, and then finds a new spot. So those are a couple news items there, as Fred Hoiberg's getting close to completing out his roster for next season already.
He might be. He needs some more big guys, don't you think? I mean, they got Morgan. We don't know about Rink Mast. He's got Juwan Gary coming back. I feel like they need to have a little more size, better, more rebounding. I suppose it could be Morgan and Gary, but you're not deep there. I think he's got some more spots. Well, I know he's got some more spots to fill, but certainly they've made progress. You've got Connor Esigian, Gavin Griffiths. Those are the 2 from Big Ten schools. Raleigh Worcester from Worcester. Worcester, is that how it's pronounced?
Worcester.
Yeah.
Worcestershire.
The former Ute, and Andrew Morgan, the North Dakota State center. So I'll ask you this. Is Nebraska more prepared now with the push that it's making in the transfer portal and the return of Gary and Williams to play against a team like Texas A&M that out-physicaled it and out-athleted it in the first round of the NCAA tournament than it was in March?
No, they are actually less prepared at the moment. I think you know what though? Like, they've lacked.
What's he building? What's he building here?
What's he doing in there? Yeah. What's he building in there? I think really it's this whole thing is kind of about raising the floor, and you get to get yourself to February, middle of February, and you want to be playing competitive basketball, and you're fighting for the top half of the Big Ten, and you're fighting for an NCAA tournament spot. maybe that's when that experience, and that skill takes over a little bit. I don't. I think they obviously lack a top end. Like you were just referencing. You want to be able to, see them in situations like Texas A&M be better prepared. You don't see a lot of that in the Big Ten. It's mostly kind of it's more skilled / kind of brute force type of deals in the Big Ten, not necessarily length and athleticism all over the place. Although of course there's some of it on every team. So I think they're prepared to do that battle in the Big Ten, and I don't have a problem with taking a little bit off the ceiling if you're adding a little bit to the bottom of the floor as well. I'm fine with the way they've built it so far. I don't think that I'm horribly excited about it, but I really don't mind how they've put it together so far.
Still got Sam Hoiberg too, so that brings your floor up, right? No, I don't know. I mean, he's obviously a good player, and he does all the little things that they need a guy to do. Things that other players don't want to do. That guys out of the portal might not be interested in contributing in those ways. So I think you don't get to decide who you're going to play. You have no control really over who you're going to get to play, what kind of an assignment you're going to get in the first round of the NCAA tournament. So it's a little bit unfair to judge Nebraska's roster by how it might match up against Texas A&M, because if it gets back to the tournament, it could face a team that's a completely different profile than what it saw in the Aggies last month. Really what you want to do is build a team that can get to the tournament. And I can't say that I see anything here where he's on the wrong track, but I do think they need another big piece, like somebody who is going to be able to take over a game at a specific moment where it's needed. And Gary can do that, but you can't put it all. Williams can do that, but you can't put it all on those guys. So unless there's something hiding in one of these transfers, I think they still have to find somebody else in the portal who can bring that element to Nebraska ball.
Yeah. One more big fish. Any comment on baseball and how their performance over the weekend?
Yeah, they got the run rule on Sunday. Will Walsh went into the 6th inning on the mound. So a good sign for sure, because Nebraska had lost 6-9, 6 of its past 9 going into that Maryland series. And so it's 8-4 in the Big Ten, tied with Purdue for second place behind Illinois. Who knew Illinois was going to be the leader halfway through in the Big Ten. But the Huskers have got Kansas on Tuesday night at Haymarket, and then Iowa. So some border rivalries this weekend and this week in Lincoln. Nebraska's RPI, interestingly, is I checked this on Sunday, still in the top 20. So while this somewhat rough April, may have deterred some people into believing that this team is headed down a path of what we saw in 2023. There's still a possibility out there that they may not have to win the Big Ten tournament in order to get to June.
Yep.
But be a good idea to keep winning these series on the weekends, starting this week against Iowa.
The conference isn't as to use the ceiling floor thing from basketball. The conference doesn't have a terribly low floor, especially with Nebraska's remaining schedule. So it'll come down. That RPI will come down a little bit more. But I do think, and I think they'll be in position to be, a 2 in a regional somewhere. I know people want to host and do that whole thing. I always thought that would. Well, I thought, especially over the last couple of weeks, that was a bit of a long shot. So I don't know. Maybe they can get it back going all the way into that point. But I'm fine with where they are right now, and it's good to see them get 2 out of 3 over the weekend. I'm also excited to see potential first round pick Brody Breck throw on on Sunday. So it's not, if you told me that there was a team that has a first round pick throwing on Sunday, I'd be like, oh my God, is this LSU? Is this Florida? Who is this? No, it's just the one guy, but he pitches on Sundays because he hadn't been able to figure it out so far this year. Although he is coming off a good start against Rutgers on Sunday. So that'll be some fireworks in Lincoln on Sunday against Iowa.
Yeah, he throws 100 miles an hour. So go out to Haymarket Park and see the former Iowa football player, now full-time baseball player, if he can get it done. And it may be a big game. Series may be on the line. So more spring football this week. We'll be counting down to the red-white game Saturday at Memorial Stadium, and we will, of course, keep you updated on everything. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today, now available free on the Fire TV channels app.